All right, everybody, we're going to dive into the story that the country is talking about today. Quebecers and Quebec proposing a tax for those who are unvaccinated. So Premier François Legault said yesterday that the government there could force unvaccinated people who he blamed for clogging up hospitals to pay in excess of $100 or more in healthcare contributions. We know that the unvaccinated in Quebec are anywhere from 10 to 12%, but they're taking up almost half of the ICU beds. So this has us thinking, what think about this idea, but also, is this something that maybe the other provinces and territories should look at?
Well, it's interesting, Mel. I mean, you just raised one statistic. Another one is the fact that Quebec has seen the highest number of COVID-related deaths across Canada. And they are, as we know, struggling with a huge surge in cases. So my first instinct when I heard this was that I applaud Legault for trying to do something, even if it does initially sound radical. But Christina on Twitter disagrees. She said, as someone who lives in Quebec and is vaccinated, I find this to be an embarrassment. Slapping a health tax isn't going to solve the issue. François Legault stopped thinking about public health and is only thinking about his political gains, which is interesting because I feel like in this province, some people are saying that the opposite is true, that the lack of any decision-making is also for political gains in this province. So what do you guys think? Is this a political move?
Well, first of all, I see it more as a hazard tax. And it's not that dissimilar to taxing smokers and drinkers. Those taxes from smoking and drinking bring in billions of dollars annually, some of which is then funneled back into our healthcare, which is in turn burdened by smokers and drinkers. So with the stat you said off the top, Mel, that 50% of patients in intensive care are unvaccinated, that's a huge burden on the health system. It's a hazard tax.
I think we've reached a point where desperate times calls for desperate measures. I think we've tried everything. They've done the lockdowns. We've done the passports. If this is what it's going to take, I guess maybe this is the route that some provinces need to explore, which leads me to my next point. I wish that as a country, we were all just following the same lead, and that Quebec's not doing this, Ontario's doing that, Manitoba was doing this. We're all on the same page because this is affecting our country, not just by province. So again, I know it's going to hit people where it hurts, but it makes me wonder, like, long term, what's going to happen? If I'm in the hospital and I don't have the funds to pay that tax, what's going to happen? There's just too many loose ends on this. But at the same time, it's encouraging people.
Jane, I was going to say that the people who might not have the money, it looks like in the last 48 hours, since this announcement was sort of broadcast, 5,000 people made appointments on Monday and 7,000 yesterday.
That's what I was going to say.
I guess like, are they? They're taking a page. To me, they're taking a page maybe out of France's political playbook, because Macron has actually said, the president of France has actually said, I am going to do everything I possibly can to tick off the unvaccinated. So on the one hand, that's a political move, but it seems to be overall pretty popular because people are like, why is the minority of people A, dictating how we live, and B, eating up all of our healthcare resources? It's a pretty sure bet that you're going to have a lot of buy-in from the rest of the population, especially in Quebec. They're still under curfew. They are under so many restrictions, and they're sick of it. Listen, we're all sick of it. So I guess as a political play, it does do something, but can you actually brush all of the unvaccinated with the same brush? Like, is this a homogenous group that are just wrong and strong? Or are there nuances in there, and we're going to hit them? No, I think
there are nuances. There are nuances for sure, and we need to get to the bottom of the nuances and start to really, really separate out the people who are just anti-vax for being anti-vax sake and the people who are hesitant and all of that, for sure. But the end result is similar. I mean, the fact is, a few of you have mentioned about the impact it's having on the healthcare system. It's not just that, you know, the burnout of healthcare workers and the fact that that the healthcare system, you know, is having a hard time keeping up. It's the backlog of also surgeries that have been put aside. And I mean, there was one story, this is one of many stories that CTV News covered a little while ago, of a 77-year-old woman from Burlington, Ontario. And in the early part of 2020, she started telling her daughter that she was having trouble swallowing. And she was trying to get an appointment. She couldn't get an appointment. It was delayed for months and months and months because of COVID. And by the time she got in, the tumor in her throat was inoperable. and she died in February of 2021. And there are a lot of stories out there like that because, and we know disproportionately the people who are in the hospital right now are unvaccinated. And so with that, I think if anyone listening is thinking of their family members, how would you feel? How would you feel personally or for someone
does that mean
you
you're
love
for
if
the
they couldn't get the
tax,
care they needed?
Are you for the tax?
With
Would
that
you be
said, I'm for the
tax?
tax then.
If I could know that the tax would directly go to alleviate the healthcare system and allow for more of these surgeries to go forward, I might be for it. I don't know that that will be the direct outcome, but I'm guessing that that's the intention.
I guess it's too little too late. That's my worry. By the time they go through the legals to figure out if this is even constitutional, by the time if it goes through, then if it goes through and now you're going to try to tax people, how does that work? And then all of a sudden you're in what? The summer of 2022 when hopefully this wave has passed. Like, to me, it's like, what's the immediate sledgehammer that you can wield to really get over that last bump? I don't know that this is what it needs right now. It sounds good on paper, but then think about the rollout and the logistics. I think it still would be months down the road. And don't you think that's too late?
Whatever we do, we need to do it now.
I want to turn it to Sarah. Yeah. Sarah on Facebook wrote, I am fully vaccinated and pro-vaccine, but this is wrong. Coercion isn't consent. But Sarah, I'll quickly just say we consent to buckling up our seatbelts in the car, stopping at red lights, getting vaccines in order to go to school. I don't see it as infringing upon personal freedoms. It's part of the social contract you agree to when you want to take part in society. I'll leave it at that.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.